Hey there guys, so I just have been recently using the Lamy Safari fountain pen the most recently, and I've been a big fan of this pen. I think I've been using it since middle school, so that's already at least 10 years now that I've had the experience with the pen, and I've always loved it. And I did 2 writing samples that I want to show that I'll talk about in a moment. And actually, before I start too, is that this one, just to give good little context of how well made of a pen that these are, this is the one I had since middle school, this green model. And I think it's apple green is the color of this one. And then a few months ago, I think it was, I decided to get the charcoal black. I don't know if it's charcoal black or steel black, but that's what this is, with the more, not really luxury, but, you know, the updated matte type finish to it. And so for the writing sample, what I did was, and I'll put a picture in with the video, so the nibs come in a really wide range of widths that you can choose from. So they have their regular ones with just a regular round tipping to it, and then they have stub nibs. So I have almost every nib except for they have a 1.1 millimeter stub. I don't have that one at the moment, but I chose these 2 inks because, so the Noodler's Black is a really good, like, standard flow to that. Perhaps it's slightly wet, but not as wet as this one here, which is General of the Army's green. So that's why I made 2 writing samples, because I wanted to highlight the difference of the ink as well. So we have, I wrote with the fine nib first. These are all steel nibs. They do have, if you would like to, you can upgrade to a gold nib even on these, and also they share the exact same nib with many models from Lamy, except for obviously the Model 2000, which is a 14 karat semi-hooded nib, so it's a completely different nib. But I believe nearly all of them are. I know I can name off the Vista, the All-Star. Actually, the Vista is just the demonstrator model to these, and the All-Star is the metal aluminum body version, and then the Studio, which is different aesthetics to it. It shares the same nib, and then I think that there's another, it's the Lamy Aeon or Ion, and then they have the Lamy Next. Those are the ones I can name off the top of my head that share the nibs. And so the nibs are just, they friction fit over this. And then another thing I want to highlight is the easiest way to change the nibs on these. You lay it on a flat surface and then take your cap and just press it down right there at the ball part of this nib, and then gently pull the pen away from you, and then you can remove the nib, as well as you could always do the tape trick, but then you have to have it not inked, or I find it easiest when the pen's not inked for the tape trick, but I just use that trick all the time. And then another tip is, as you can see, they have the Lamy branding right here on the facing straight up, and then a lot of times you'll unscrew it to get to your cartridge or converter on the inside, and then when you would do that, you might, at least in the beginning I did until a few months ago, you'd find when you keep screwing the barrel back on that it doesn't face up. So the way that you'll ensure that brand always faces up is face the Lamy brand on the right hand side away from you, with the ink windows side by side, and then when you screw it on, it should land on the top every single time. So that's the tips I have for you. Now for the writing. So this is with the regular flowing Noodler's Black, which in the fine, it's pretty much what you'd expect. It's just perhaps just slightly thicker than a Japanese medium. And then ignore this medium because I had to go over it to get the ink started. But right here is how it would look with the medium. I also went up and down to show how if there's any line variation, obviously you're not going to get much, but I just wanted to show it. And then the broad is one that I use very often, as well as the 1.5 italic, or probably the two I use the most. And then as you can see, when we get to the italic, you get good differentiation of that line right there when you go. So italics, well, actually it's a stub nib technically because it's a little bit rounded, but in any case, it's got really good difference there. So when you have stub or italic nibs, it's going to go, your narrow stroke is going to be sideways, and then your verticals are going to be thick. And then with the 1.9, it's very thick, even with this ink. So, and I'll show you as well. So it's a flattened tip to stubs and italic, but it's really a stub. As I said, I checked everywhere that sells pens, they like to say that they're stubs. So then with the heavy flow of ink, so this is a very, very runny ink, you could say. It dries pretty quick though, but it's runny. The same way with the Blue Upon the Plains of Abraham is the exact same behavior as this one. As you can see, it flows out so readily that it's almost hard to tell which is which with fine and medium. And then with broad, it's quite broad. I almost put it as a double broad in my own opinion. And then with the italic, you can see it's very, very, very thick on that. And then I also decided to show how it would behave on a 80 GSM Clairefontaine envelope. So this is with the 1.5 millimeter with the Noodler's Black. And kind of have to write a little bit large, but it works fairly well. And then this is with the fine nib, but with the heavy flowing ink of the General of the Army's green. So anyway, so I hope that might have been a little bit helpful. So I will see you guys, and you have a good one.